Scripture to consider before the news. They have healed also the hurt of the daughter of my people slightly, saying, Peace, peace, when there is no peace. No peace until the Prince of Peace returns on his white horse. Now unto the news. Joe Biden might bring unity to the Middle East. President Joe Biden says he will bring unity to America, but he might inadvertently bring it to the Middle East instead. Biden's staff is reportedly talking to Iran about a U.S. re-entry to the Iran nuclear deal, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, but with new conditions. The Iranians say no new conditions, so we'll see who's most anxious to get the U.S. back in the tent. The Trump administration helped secure the Abraham Accords, the normalization of relations between Israel and Bahrain, Sudan, Morocco, and the United Arab Emirates (UAE). The Trump policies created a clear division between moderate, progressive states that are seeking to build a brighter future for the region, and rejectionist regimes such as Iran and Turkey that are only interested in promoting division and conflict. The Biden administration has indicated it wants to return the Middle East peace process to a Palestine-centric approach, but many Arabs view dealing with the Palestinian Authority as a waste of time. The Palestine-first approach has a powerful advocate in the region, Saudi Arabia's King Salman, and that's only as long as the ailing monarch clings to life. So, will the physically frail American president and the physically frail Saudi king return the Middle East to the same old, same old? They might, but if Biden rushes to rejoin the JCPOA without involving the Israelis and the Sunni Arabs in the negotiating process, he may create a soft bloc of the Abraham Accord states plus Saudi Arabia to cooperate against Iran, and hopefully in line with U.S. interests, but that's not assured as the U.S. is far away and Iran is close by for them. The U.S. has credibility in the region thanks to the Abraham Accords and the recent thaw in relations between Qatar and the Gulf Cooperation Council. Though the Biden administration will likely return to an interventionist foreign policy, local U.S. troop presence has dwindled, so U.S. options will be bounded. The Americans will have to attempt the novel approach of negotiating towards their goals. The Biden administration wants back into the JCPOA, but it doesn't understand, or doesn't wish to understand, why Iran wants nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles in the first place. Since the 1979 revolution, Iran's leadership has been clear that its goal is the destruction of Israel. It has said this consistently, through both hardline and reformist governments, so it isn't just rhetoric, for domestic consumption only. Since the mullahs think they are doing God's work, how will the U.S. justify giving the capability to make the world's most dangerous weapons to a state that has already declared a U.S. friend as its #1 target? After 8 years as Barack Obama's understudy, Biden wants to show he is just as good as the younger man, and rescuing JCPOA, Obama's Nobel Prize homework assignment, will do the job. But the JCPOA was always a vanity project as all it does is tinker with the date when Iran can make good on its declared eliminationist policy. The U.S. has been down this road before. The Nixon administration's twin pillars policy deputized Iran and Saudi Arabia as the guardians of U.S. interests in the Persian Gulf as the U.S. retrenched following the Vietnam War. It ended badly in Iran, but Obama thought supporting Iran to balance against Saudi Arabia, via the JCPOA, would work as the U.S. again pulled back from the region. The Saudis have funded their share of mayhem in the region, but Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is reducing the influence of the religious authorities and focusing on job creation and the concerns of youth, not a 72-year-old conflict he probably wishes his grandfather had settled. The Iranian regime, on the other hand, is proving you can stay in power a long time if you kill enough people. To Israel and the Sunni Arabs, Iran is a concern and the Palestinians a distraction. Israel and the Arabs should insist on a role in the Iran negotiations as they, not the Europeans or the Americans, will be the targets of those nukes. And if the US insists that negotiating with the Palestinians is the priority, not normalization of relations between Israel and the Arabs, Israel will have to again embark on the whole dreary process. Israel should plan to make progress, but the only likely beneficiaries are the owners of high-end hotels in Geneva and foreign envoys whose careers never suffer even after decades of no sale. Concurrently, Riyadh and Jerusalem should start a round of Track 2 diplomacy with an eye to connecting young Israeli and Saudi leaders. This will keep their own interests on track while they satisfy Washington. The The US probably doesn't understand that its apparent obsession with rescuing the Iranian regime and the Palestinian leadership will increase cooperation between Israel and the Arabs as a counter to US pressure. Encouraging more engagement, outlaw the Abraham Accords, rather than another forced march through the peace process, will increase Arab influence with Israel that will help secure that long-sought settlement for the Palestinians. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell so you can get notified whenever new Bible prophecy news videos are uploaded. In other news, Israel, fearing virus mutations, to close its only international airport. Israel will close its only major airport for at least a week, authorities said Sunday, effectively sealing itself off from international travel in a bid to vaccinate more of its population before new variants of the coronavirus take hold here. The cabinet agreed Sunday to bar incoming and outgoing international passenger flights at Ben Gurion International Airport from midnight Monday until at least the end of January, unless a parliamentary committee votes to overturn the plan. The few exceptions will include cargo flights, medical evacuations and firefighting flights, according to the office of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Departures will be banned except for certain extreme cases, including family funerals and legal proceedings, which will require individual approval by health authorities. Even Jewish immigrants scheduled to arrive under the country's law of return will be barred during the shutdown, an interruption in the flow of newcomers that reportedly was opposed by Israel's immigration minister. No nation has done what we are about to do. We are hermetically sealing the country, Netanyahu said in a statement. We do this to prevent the entry of the virus mutations and to ensure that we progress quickly with our vaccination campaign. Israel has outpaced all other countries in inoculating about 27% of its population with at least the first shot of the two-dose Pfizer vaccine. Officials expected to vaccinate an additional 1 million residents over the course of the next week. The country's health system is in a tense race with a rate of infections that threatens to overwhelm its hospital capacity. Israelis are mired in their third national lockdown. The number of critical cases, which had drifted downward, showed another increase over the weekend. Officials have expressed confidence that the massive vaccine effort will begin to pay off as more second shots are delivered, but they worry that new variants of the virus are responsible for the stubborn hospitalization rate. A variant of the virus first identified in the United Kingdom, which appears to be significantly more contagious, has been detected in some of Israel's latest positive cases, according to media reports. Coronavirus czar Nachman Ash has told officials that he expects the variant to become dominant in Israel within weeks. Closing the airport for the first time during the pandemic is an attempt to buy time for more Israelis to get their shots before that variant and at least one other, first identified in South Africa, gain a greater foothold. Amid reports that travelers were failing to abide by incoming self-quarantine restrictions, health officials in recent days had pushed to shut down air transit for at least 2 weeks. Ministers finally agreed to shutter the airport until the end of the month, when the current lockdown is scheduled to end. Both closures could be extended, officials warned. They implored Israelis to heed existing guidelines and to get their shots. Scripture to consider. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise, and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. The third Jewish temple is coming. Lastly in the news, Jordan demands Israel end AlAqsa provocations. Jordan urged Israel on Monday to stop blocking restoration work at Jerusalem's AlAqsa mosque compound, Islam's third holiest site. Jordanian Foreign Ministry spokesman Daifallah Al-Fayez said he had sent a protest note, demanding Israel refrain from such violations and provocations, and respect the mandate of Jordan in administering Muslim holy sites. There was no immediate response from Israel. Under a 1994 peace deal, the Jewish state recognizes Jordan's oversight of Muslim holy sites in East Jerusalem, the Palestinian sector of the city occupied and annexed by Israel since 1967. Known by Muslims as the Haram al-Sharif, or Holy Sanctuary, and as the Temple Mount by Jews, the compound houses the Golden Dome of the Rock Shrine and Al-Aqsa Mosque. Jordan, which said Israel's police had interrupted restoration work on the Dome of the Rock, stressed that the Waqf, the Islamic Endowments Authority, was the sole authority responsible for the supervision and maintenance of Al-Aqsa. On Sunday, the Waqf accused Israeli police of blocking all reconstruction projects in the compound, including stopping building supplies and the entry of basic materials necessary for maintenance. The WAQF said maintenance teams were unable to maintain or repair the most basic facilities of the mosque, and its employees are exposed to prosecution, threats of arrest and expulsion. On Saturday, the WAQF said police stopped work by photocopying the identity cards of workers and technicians, preventing them from working and threatening them with arrest if work continues. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And stay tuned to Watchman Report for more Bible prophecy news. To learn how to receive forgiveness of sins and get your name in the Book of Life, visit beingjustified.com today. Behold, now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. Tomorrow is not promised. Make sure your eternal soul is being justified.